go straight into the big question. What do you guys think of people saying that Beyonce and Jay-Z's marriage was all a branding strategy to become a power couple and enhance their economic and social capital? Should we move down the line? We'll start with Annelot.
Okay.
It's very hard for me to say anything really useful about that because I don't know Beyonce or Jay-Z, which...
I can jump in here.
Yeah, yeah, good friends.
It was all...
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so thank you for clearing that up. So yeah, there's... But no, their careers definitely help each other. Jay-Z legitimizes Beyonce's hip-hop side and in this framework of hip-hop, street cool stuff. And Beyonce kind of legitimizes his really nice side of his image of loving husband and father. Yeah, but they definitely know how to use their marriage in order to further their profits. Yeah. But I don't know if it's like fake. I don't know if that would be a bit reductionist probably to say that.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on it?
The only thing that when I thought about this, the only thing I thought was, like if we look at a historical context, why is this problematized? Like why are we, because marriages historically were about, I mean, obviously women were differently placed then, but they were about maybe continuing social and economic capital ties. So I'm not really sure if I agree with that perspective, but when I saw the question or heard the question, that's kind of what came to my head.
Do you have any thoughts on it?
It just kind of makes me think of Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown, which, me being older than y'all, makes me that kind of the same type of thing where Bobby Brown has this bad boy image and then Whitney Houston a good girl image. And do we really know someone beyond what they present to us? So whatever happens behind closed doors, I don't know. Maybe she's more like him or he's more like her, and the brands they put out there really have nothing to do with their true personalities. So, I mean, but it definitely does probably, economically help both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard to believe that it was just a brand strategy. I think that's very cynical, but I certainly think they capitalized on it and have, perhaps stayed together for that reason, who knows, which kind of draws into the next question, which is how you guys feel about the rumors that Jay-Z has repeatedly cheated on Beyonce and what that means for her feminist identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking a bit about this yesterday, and I shared my reading of Lemonade with them, which is that Lemonade should be seen like in this lineage of great American novels by Toni Morrison and Maya Angelou, like the really big novels. Alice Walker is in that line as well, because it has like a similar arc where it starts out with Beyonce being hurt by both white women, Becky with the good hair, and her black man, and throughout the course of that visual album she has to stop. So first off, she defines her own identity in like these binaries of what she's not. So she's not the black man, she's not the white woman, and then it goes through a different perspective wherein we really go through her journey in black womanhood and finding her identity from within without like setting these binary divisions towards others. And that would be like the path to reconciliation in Lemonade, is to find that inner identity of who am I just for me, without all these others around me defining me, which is also a narrative that returns in these great authors that have to find their place in American culture, and very much the struggle of black womanhood, I think.
I think when we were talking about this last night, I think it's probably relevant here. I read an article from the Sydney Morning Herald. It could have been published in different places, but the author Kale spoke about how our focus on this infidelity or chasing Becky with the good hair, whoever that may be, because there was such a hunt to try and work out who this person was. kind of, I'm going to quote because I probably can't do it justice as much as this person can, but it actually talks about how the hatred for Becky with the good hair that fans had, or at least trying to seek out who that person was, is kind of like a misguided sense of loyalty. So she says, it's proof of a world in which women are only allowed to be powerful if they're desirable, and losing a man who loves you is akin to being completely drained of your worth. And so by making Lemonade's narrative about this feud between perhaps the two women, or us focusing on this infidelity, the author of the Sydney Morning Herald article says that the culture proves that it isn't ready to accept the radical reconfiguration of female power, one that's not defined by our ability to kind of keep a man or find and keep a man, but by our triumphs, battle scars, and the darkest corners of ourselves. So by focusing on this infidelity, by focusing on who is Becky with the good hair, we're not actually perhaps thinking about this from a different way, or putting our energy in to perhaps continuing a focus on them rather than on the messages that Beyonce's giving.
That's a really good point.
I think that we have, at least in the West, maybe a really narrow definition of marriage, and so to project that onto people that we don't know is not really fair. And I don't know that necessarily being a feminist means that by staying with someone you love, for even though they've cheated on you, whatever reconciliation happens, whether he cheated, whether he didn't, I don't know. My response is not as articulate as these ladies, but I just think that it's so much more complicated. Being married myself, I just find that you're willing to forgive a lot more when you're more invested in the relationship.
That's a good point. I think some people were discussing the fact that she's staying with him, does that make her a weaker woman, and that sort of discussion, which I think is harsh. Because, as you said, it's a personal relationship. We don't know the depths of it. They do have a child together and so forth. So, yeah, I think that's a very good point.
Well, Annelot brought up a point yesterday when you were talking about your paper about this idea of the black man and leaving, his woman and leaving women.
Yeah, the myth of the black family
right.
collapse.
Yeah. And so maybe this is all, just a bad misunderstanding.
Yeah, and I think they are showing us a black family that stays together and sticks around, which is already subversive in a weird way, because our culture is so confused about black people doing anything. So that's it's really sad that we focus so much and we scrutinize this so much, rather than the value of our work and the readings of our work as something that resists like patriarchal, white supremacist oppression.
At the Amsterdam conference of celebrity studies, there was a paper where they spoke about Beyonce's sister going off with Jay-Z in the elevator. I'm sure most of you would have seen that video. It went around. What are you guys' thoughts on that video and her sister's role in all of that?
So my first thought on that video is that it shows how brilliant Beyonce is in dealing with these crises. Because what she did is she never spoke out. Jay-Z never spoke out. Then she performed at the VMAs. She made a remix of Flawless. And in the middle part, she said, of course, sometimes shit goes down when it's $1 billion in the elevator. And that was repeated for 3 times in a very mechanical sound. And she stood up really fierce. And you saw intersecting cuts of Jay-Z holding their daughter Blue Ivy, who were sitting front row. So I thought that was so smart to just don't really talk about it in interviews. She barely does interviews. She barely talks to anyone. But to incorporate it in your work in this very tiny bit of 12 seconds.
Speaking of that, what do you guys think of her brand strategy to not do interviews? Because that's very rare for any celebrity to be able to be that successful and avoid actually doing interviews. Do you guys have any thoughts on how she's able to do that? Or?
She controls her narrative. It's all gossip and, what happens behind, I don't know, what do they do? So I think she's, really in control, and that's been, kind of her strategy the entire time since, she was in Destiny's Child, that she has always been in control of everything. She's the queen bee, so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do Do you think any young new celebrities starting out could do that though? 'Cause she's sort of done it all along the way almost, like avoided most interviews. But that's a pretty rare situation, I have to say. I can't imagine. I mean, even these days, I feel like most celebrities need to be on social media. It's pretty hard for them to avoid doing that. Whereas, obviously, in previous generations, some of them still avoided it, and they're, you know, perfectly successful. So it's not a must, but it almost seems like a must for the younger generations.
Yeah, I feel like there's a hierarchy in celebrity, and Beyonce is definitely on top of it. And I don't really know how that came into being. But you notice it, like she became cultural capital and like cultural currency in herself. So I just watched this episode of The Daily Show where Ray McIntyre, who's like a really well-known activist for the Black Lives Matter movement, was introduced with the words, "So you are one of the 6 person Beyonce follows on Twitter." So I thought it was so interesting how that became like currency for him to be on that show, other than his very important activist work, where that was discussed as well, of course. You keep seeing that, for example, in Kanye West's recent video Famous. He had this like all these naked people in bed, and he photoshopped a lot of celebrities in there, a lot of the current people who we were discussing, and Beyonce was missing, and that's no accident, because no one would dare to place Beyonce naked in a bed, because she's on top. So she definitely had to get there first to be able to do this with the press. And I think she did do more interviews in the beginning, and what she also does a lot is she releases a lot of very short documentaries and behind-the-scenes features. She released a feature film, Life is But a Dream, in which she is like the producer, the director, and the main part, of course. Like she's in control of all parts of that film. So yeah, I think that's how she's doing like really smart business strategies.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts?
And I was just going to say a couple of the articles that I read before when I was researching for what to talk about, basically, was that I think a couple of the articles were written around the time that Prince died, and so a lot of them were making that comparison between the way that he didn't really interact. He controlled how he interacted with the media, and because of that there was kind of this mystery presence around him, and they were making that comparison between Beyonce and Prince in the way that we kind of don't really know what's going on, and it's maybe a deliberate thing that she chooses when she engages and how she engages.
Did you have anything to add?
Oh, no, just you can't mess up if you don't say anything. So
that's a good one. Yeah, it's a good PR strategy.
My dad.
About that elevator scene.
Yes.
Who filmed that?
It was the
security cams. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to suggest that, you know, in the narrative that she's not participating in, that it's no accident that was revealed to the public. So
there are a lot of
there is a
conspiracy
machinery
theories.
behind.
TMZ got that one.
Who got
TMZ. They tend to get everything.
It's very convenient
There's a lot of conspiracy going
around. There was
around.
also a photograph of them after they exited the elevator, which I thought was really interesting because Beyonce was really composed and smiling for the media, while Jay-Z was holding his face because he just got punched. And I don't know what her sister was doing, but I'm sure she was a mess. So it was just interesting that Beyonce was able to keep that composed branding that she manages.
But she kept that in the elevator as well, which is what a lot of people found very ridiculous because she stood there very passive, very composed, while her sister was leeching her out of like Jay-Z. If I could tie in with Prince for a little small bit, because we all like to talk about Prince, I think, just to illustrate how business savvy she is. Prince once said about Beyonce, like once she learns to play the piano, she's unbeatable. Nothing can stop her then. So in Lemonade, there's this part which is called Sandcastle's a really nice ballad on a piano, and in Lemonade you see Beyonce playing the piano and singing the song. Most funny thing is, she never played that piano for that song. That is like recorded by a very well-known, well-skilled pianist. But she gave us the imagery of her playing that piano, very aware of what Prince said about her once. So I thought that was just such a wonderful story.
Yeah. It's nice one. Moving slightly in a slightly different direction, but still to Beyonce's branding. I was just wondering what you guys think of the way that she suddenly releases albums or clothing lines and that brand strategy to create conversation and social media buzz. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny that it's always featured as something that is really like unique and new, while David Bowie has done it a couple of times, I feel like. So it's funny how she becomes like the focal point of kind of a lot of the stuff that goes on in our culture. Every time she does something, it's framed as really extraordinary and new and dangerous. But yeah, I doubt she ever really takes dangers.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing. Her team knows what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, I know several artists, like, during the Napster era did the same thing, because it was about their art and not about the money. So that's an interesting strategy. I mean, she still makes millions, hundreds of millions of dollars off of her
She's the
stuff.
best earning artist since 1999.
Right.
Yeah. Like going straight on from that.
And artists don't really make money on their albums anymore anyway, because of streaming and YouTube videos and things like that. So it doesn't matter. And at that point, of course, the record label is going to promote it because of all the other things that she sells.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
So, like, what do you think about Tidal? So, platforms that like Jay-Z and I think Nicki Minaj also contributed to it. A few of the key hip-hop artists created as an alternative to Spotify. So, to take kind of control of the music production, kind of an interesting way.
I know Apple wants to buy it, Tidal, at the moment. It's a very smart construct. They have all these great artists working on it, contributing to it, and they have a lot of exclusive material. Like Lemonade, but also Erykah Badu made a Western movie recently, and it's only on Tidal, and like video clips of Nicki Minaj and Beyoncé together for Feeding Myself, which I needed for my research, and I had to become a member of Tidal to actually get to it, because they have also like a very skilled team that just spends their time on the internet taking everything off everywhere, making sure it's just on Tidal. So I know it's a very smart construct.